All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher, joined as always by Drew Dinsick. Somber tone today on Bet the Edge. Not the greatest weekend in the National Football League by any stretch, but we'll break it all down. We'll pour some salt into the wound. We're going to talk Vikings Bills, which was a great game of football, had some interesting betting repercussions that we'll jump into. And then also we'll talk about the Cowboys, their surprise loss to the Packers and the repercussions of that. And then we'll wrap with another blockbuster primetime game, Eagles, Commanders, which, yeah, I guess I'll watch tonight. Drew, how are you? How was your weekend?
But my weekend was tremendous from just like a life standpoint, and then Sunday happened. Sunday football was hellaciously bad for me. I think I caught one small winner with the getting ahead of the number on the Cardinals. Everything else I played, I lost. I think my accounts were just red. Everything lost. That happens. I've had some fluky weeks this year where I felt like I won everything and I didn't deserve to. So I have to kind of absorb this as part of the game. But as I sit here now and try to look at this kind of mess of a season we have in front of us, it is a really, really tough moment to try to figure out, okay, did teams like the Bucs and the Packers, did they revive any of their kind of, they warranted the prior they came into the season with? And you now have to decide, have I downgraded them more than they ought to have been, or was this sort of a fluky upside for a team that actually isn't that good? Similarly with the likes of our Seahawks, like I want to be, giving them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because, hey, they were playing at 6 o'clock in the morning their time. Like, of course, they come out a little flat. Like that shouldn't really be a surprise. But at the same time, like doubt starting to creep a little bit if they can get the job done in the NFC West. And then, what to make of the AFC right now. Chiefs can't lose, but they're doing it in weird, ugly ways. Buffalo Bills Vikings game, which you mentioned, is kind of the standout in terms of kind of swinging win probability and equity in a lot of futures pools. So I think we should start there. And that one was a wild one. That 4th and 18 catch by Justin Jefferson probably goes down as the moment of the year in NFL so far. Would you say?
Yeah, I think I can't imagine there's ever been a better catch than that, certainly given the circumstances. The only catch that came to mind for me was Julio Jones in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and obviously that was a much more important moment. But for Jefferson, I think that catch was it epitomized the whole game because the Vikings, they didn't have any place being in that game. Jefferson just had an outlier historical performance in terms of his catch rate over expectation. It was one of the greatest performances of all time. And then to get obviously the fumble from Allen at the goal line. And I think the thing is they got all of that stuff. They got one of the greatest wide receiver performances of all time. They had a superstar quarterback fumbling in his own end zone with 40 seconds left. And all of that happened, and they won by 3. I think that's the thing with the Vikings is that, yes, they are a good team. They're, to me, probably a true talent 11-6 type of team, and they've had this insane run in one-score games. And, the thing is that seems dismissive of the Vikings, but there's not that many true talent 11-6, 12-5 team wins in the NFL this year, so they might be one of the 5 best teams, even though they're not at the standard, I would say, of a usual, 1-seed challenger. But, I came out of that game feeling certainly better about the Vikings and their ceiling. But at the same time, like Josh Allen, who I think was the other story in that game, is that Allen's been bad 3 weeks in a row now. And Patrick Mahomes is not bad 3 weeks in a row. And Allen, I think his MVP case is largely dead on arrival now. But the Bills, yes, you upgrade the Vikings, but to me, it's more about the adjustment of the Bills as now. I don't see them being any better, really, out than Kansas City or probably slightly better than Philadelphia. The Bills will get healthier is the thing, but in their current state, I don't see why they're Super Bowl favorites over Kansas City.
Yeah, they are now on the outside looking in at their own division, which is problematic. Because if you're expecting to go on the road and win as a wild card in today's NFL, well, that's tough, but it's even tougher in the AFC where, you have real deal contenders at every step of the way. You're going to have to go to, very challenging environments. And I don't think the Bills really warrant this kind of consideration right now. It's pretty clear, particularly the pass defense has suffered. The absence of of Jordan Poyer in particular has been very, very, broadly felt. It was a weird decision to let Allen go in that game in the first place, I thought. We talked about it last week. There was a lot of, expectation that this was going to be a Case Keenum game. I think overall, the Bills would have benefited from letting Allen rest and recuperate to a degree, let him reset, and giving the keys to Case Keenum and having it, trying to get some other players to step up on that team, because it's been a lot of let's stand around and watch Josh Allen do his thing. They elected to go, to let Allen call his own number apparently, and he played through the injury, and he was uninspiring. The goal line fumble, it was fluky. I don't know if you really want to hang that on him, but that cost them a win, and it's going to be potentially a very costly win considering where they stand now in division and in conference. So, I think realistically, there's not enough of a reaction here. Buffalo Bills have a tougher schedule down the stretch than the Chiefs do all of a sudden, and they're looking at a 5 seed right now.
Yeah, I think if you look at the Bills in terms of what their projected health will be when the playoffs starts, I still think they are the best team in football, but I don't think they should be favored over Kansas City to win the AFC or to win the Super Bowl, just because Kansas City are now a game up and with an easier schedule. They are clear favorites over the Bills to get the 1 seed, to have home field against the Bills in a potential AFC title game, and also they don't have to play first round of the playoffs, whereas the Bills do. And with Allen's inconsistency and his how prone he is to turnovers, it's not like the Bills are going to be guaranteed 10-point favorites in the first round of the playoffs. And then to your point about the division, the AFC West is done. Kansas City have wrapped up that division. They are guaranteed to win that effectively, barring something absolutely catastrophic. Whereas the Bills now, to me, are like a flip against the field in terms of FCS, because it's not just Miami, who I think are a bet to win the division at current prices, which is pretty much across the board above plus 200, which I don't understand. And then also, the Bills have the same record as the Jets right now, and the Jets have the tiebreak over the Bills, and the Patriots are 1 game behind them, and they're probably not going to win the division, but they're shorter than 50-1 to win the division, so they're live as well. So I do think it's certainly all trending in the wrong direction for Buffalo, but they still, I think, have the highest talent level. Let's talk about another team with a very high talent level that had a surprise loss from almost an unlosable position, and that's Dallas, who I think, we were certainly on board with being one of the 4 best teams in the NFL coming into last week. Dak, he has those Dak type of games. One of the interceptions wasn't on him, but he didn't play great. But I think the bigger concern is that the defense allowed as many points as they did. I didn't think that Green Bay's offense had that ceiling in that type of game, which did go to overtime. But still, how much are you downgrading the Cowboys after that loss in Lambeau?
I think you have to meaningfully downgrade them. Certainly, if you had sort of a range of expected outcomes or performance range for Dak Prescott, you've now seen that, there's a tail to the low that maybe you didn't have in there before, at least me. I kind of had him as a lower, like a higher floor quarterback, but there were moments in that game where he was pretty poor. And I think overall, even against a team that, was seemingly dead in the water in Green Bay, the fact that you can't put away a 14-point lead was pretty concerning. I think I went back and watched the Christian Watson touchdowns, and those were just lackadaisical defensive, plays by some of the secondary. We've known that the Cowboys can give up those boomer bust type of plays in the passing game. They just haven't done it a lot this year. They didn't get really any impact out of, no wins 1v1 for their D-line against the pretty sad state of affairs going on with the Green Bay Packers O-line was concerning. You're allowed to have a stinker, and coming off of a bye in particular, I guess I shouldn't really be, that concerned about a Cowboys team, because, they went into their bye feeling great. You don't necessarily work on trying to improve in those type of moments. And so coming out a little flat, I think was a realistic expectation. But no, I think, the idea that this Cowboys are going to sneak up and steal an NFC that's very stealable is now something that I'm throwing question on, because they are behind the Philadelphia Eagles substantially now for an NFC East. In fact, that loss pretty much makes Philly's NFC East chances 85, 90%. So if you're not going to win your division, you're going to have to go on the road. And Dak Prescott has been suspect in cold. He's been suspect on the road. He's been suspect in high leverage moments against good teams. Like those are the sort of the check the boxes where you're not really feeling all that confident in a Dak Prescott going out there and giving you an A+ performance. And again, kind of in the same conversation as the Bills, if they've got to go on the road and win 3 games to get to a Super Bowl, then I'm not exactly backing. I'm not a believer.
Yeah, the issue is now the division is done. They're 3 games back of the Eagles. They're down for the tiebreak as well, having lost that game with Cooper Rush against Philadelphia. Dallas was 195-0 when leading by 14 points going into the fourth quarter in franchise history. Now 195-1. They're still plus 1,500 to win the Super Bowl. I wouldn't give up on Dallas just because of the state of the rest of the NFC and the fact that yes, they're almost certainly going to have to win 3 road playoff games now, being the likely 5 seed. But the 4 seed is probably going to be Tampa Bay, who I still think they're better than, even with what happened yesterday. I think the concern would be that they came into yesterday with the number 1 defense by DVOA, the best defense in football, narrowly in front of Denver. And I think that yesterday showed that even if they have the best defense in the league or close, it's not like an all-world unit necessarily relative to other best defenses in a season going back, just because, outside of, it's a kind of a silly statement, but outside of Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, there's not that much on the defensive line. And if Parsons is playing off-ball linebacker, which he seemed to a bit yesterday more than usual, then the D-line can be beaten. The secondary is fine, but not all-world either. So, I do think there are some concerns there, but the main thing now is Prescott going on the road 3 times. Are there any other teams that you're especially concerned about after yesterday?
Man. Yeah, our Seahawks a little. Not concerned, but the Niners, I held when we did power rankings last week, I had the Niners up there in the conversation with the Cowboys in terms of power rating. They were equal to a little bit better than the Seahawks. And you shouldn't come out of the Sunday night game with the Niners winning that way and feel like anything good about them. They had a lot of opportunities in that second half to win that with margin, to cover that spread. They get a goal to go opportunity to put a game away and can only manage a field goal, so that they have to give the Chargers back the ball one more time. That was a pretty uninspiring kind of a closing effort from a Niners team that was at home, that was healthier by a lot. They were playing a defense that had 3 D linemen available, for crying out loud, and you can't push the ball across the goal line. It was a very suspect kind of effort from a Niners team in a situation where they really could have, I think, shown you more. I get it. They got the win. Every win is counts. It's the same. So whether you win pretty or whether you win ugly, it doesn't really matter. But that was a little uninspiring from a Niners team. I think Seattle still, with the week now to kind of regroup. I think, I'm still keen to believe in them, but that gap narrowing in for the division is concerning.
Yeah, that's frustrating with how those games turned at the end, because Seattle did have a chance to get the ball back late. I don't feel any worse really about Seattle's kind of talent level, their rating coming out of that game, just because, one, they were 2.5-point underdogs. I don't think they really underperformed relative to expectations of the market. And then 2, Tampa went 10 of 15 on 3rd down, and including one pivotal stretch early in the game when they went 5 for 5. And those were some crucial 3rd down conversions. There was some blown coverages on 3rd and long for Seattle. And Seattle, on the other hand, they went 1 and 9 on 3rd down and had a very bad fumble in the red zone too. So I think the Seahawks will be fine. It's just that now it's just harder because they lost and the Niners won. So the division odds shift in favor of San Francisco, and it's all going to come down to that primetime game, which is in Seattle later in the season, which will be a very nervous watch for you and I. All right. Mm-hmm. Drew, download the RotoWorld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. All right. Let's talk Commanders Eagles because we have to, because it's an NFL game that's on prime time. I'm actually looking forward to Thursday night's game, Titans Packers, which will be very interesting, particularly for anyone holding a Derrick Henry Offensive Player of the Year ticket at 50 to 1. But let's talk Commanders Eagles, which, I mean, this is Philadelphia's chance to effectively lock up the NFC East and continue to claw back that separation against Minnesota for the 1 seed. So the line is Philly minus 11 at home. The total is 43.5. Do you have any plays on this game?
Yeah, I think there is some expectation here that you're going to get, a Philly team that I think comes in, tries to take control of this game early, and then just really puts this on ice, which to me, I think lends itself to an under 43.5. Washington has played towards unders for the better half part of 4 or 5 weeks now. The one game that went over was that Green Bay game, which, in hindsight, there were a couple of defensive scores that one might not have deserved to go over. And yeah, I mean, this Washington Commanders team, from an offensive standpoint, you have to go back to the Carson Wentz era early in the season against the Lions and the Jaguars to find a team that broke 24 points offensively. And that's concerning, going up against an Eagles team that can absolutely kind of, play ball control against you. And, if Philly gets to 24 points and takes the air out of the ball, I think that's a realistic expectation. So wouldn't expect Philly to race out and get a cover here. Wouldn't expect there to be, kind of a two-way, kind of firefight here with lots of offense. This feels like a pretty, pretty fair market overall. I think if I could have gotten a 44, I'd be more interested in having a big stake on the under here. But at 43.5, I think there's still a little bit of room there for an underplay.
Yep. I would the under would be my play as well. Definitely opposed to taking a side at the spread. I do think that Washington's defense has sneakily improved a fair bit over the past month, where now they're up to 14th in overall defensive DVOA, second against the rush, which is particularly relevant against a team like Philadelphia, although it might trigger them to throw the ball more, which they should probably do anyway. And on the other side, the Eagles obviously have an elite defense. I don't think that the Commanders are going to score too easily. In terms of the prop market, my favorite bet of the night, and he's a good guy to go down in flames with, is Antonio Gibson, whose rushing yards are set at 30.5, which to me is extremely low against the Eagles rushing defense, which is bad, frankly. We saw what Damian Pierce did to them last time out. I don't think that Washington are going to try and establish the pass early with Taylor Heineke. Antonio Gibson had 11 carries last game against Minnesota and has kind of taken back some of the role from Brian Robinson. So, look, he probably only needs 8 carries to be expected to go over 30.5 rushing yards. So I think that he should get that and should go over. Anything that you like from a player perspective?
I agree with you that Gibson is the guy you want to circle. He definitely has kind of shown a lot more life since about the middle of the season here, and maybe didn't take the way that they were treating him in the offseason especially well, and has now kind of finally found his footing. He is a guy that has a little bit of pop, and I think you did point out the key weakness of the Eagles, which is their run defense. So that's a really fun way to attack. I would also kind of keep circled the Heineke interception prop. He's gonna throw one. He does. He's loosey goosey out there. His turnover worthy plays are like crazy high for a guy that you think of as maybe a game manager type of quarterback. So expecting him to turn it over, particularly in the red zone, would be where I would look, because it's gonna be bend but don't break kind of approach for the Eagles defense. I think they're gonna willingly give up 20 to 20, particularly with yards on the ground, and then try to create those turnovers in the short field.
Have you noticed anything in the market with the Eagles in second halves with live betting opportunities? Just because I think they are one of the most extreme first half, second half teams. They're 7-1 against the spread in the first half. And then certainly they seem to, more than any other team, with their combination of just kind of offensive philosophy and the fact that they're really good. So they're often up in second half. And they just seem to take the foot off the gas and just go run heavy more than any team in the second half. Is there anything you think people should be looking out for in Eagles halftime markets?
Yeah, if you want to bet just Commanders in general, second half, I think is a fair play because, yeah, you're absolutely right. That is their MO. They are they're very good at creating opportunities where Jalen Hurts can just get to the sticks on the ground. And they also are very, very, savvy in terms of, hey, it's 3rd and 6. We're at the midfield. We're not going to give Hurts a play where he's going to have to try to be a hero. We're just going to try to get 3 yards, and then we're going to go for it on 4th down. We already know what play we're going to call. They've already practiced it, right? And so they are one of the more effective teams at just kind of making long drives happen. It takes the air out of the ball. It presents opportunities for second half unders, and then if Heineke can get anything going in the second half, then you would expect Commanders minus the 2.5 if they're at a deficit, meaningful deficit. I would play them up to that type of a number.
Yep, I like it. Yeah, the fact that the point you raised about not being comfortable putting it in the hands of Jalen Hurts on 3rd and 6 at midfield is why it will be an absolute travesty if that guy wins MVP over Patrick Mahomes. Because let me tell you, Kansas City's fine putting the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands on 3rd and 6. All right, well, we'll break that game down tomorrow for better or worse. But until then, if you want more betting, DFS, and fantasy advice right before kickoff tonight, tune into our NFL on NBC Sports YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Eastern as Lawrence Jackson, Kyle Dvoracek, and a special guest answer your questions prior to kickoff between the Commanders and Eagles. All right, bit of a somber episode of Bet the Edge, given how everything played out.
You want to end with something positive?
Well, hit me. What do you got?
Our Seahawks.
Yeah.
2 games left against the LA Rams.
Yeah, that is a nice little kind of quirk of scheduling. Would have been good for the Rams. Could have got 1 out of San Francisco, but we'll take it. Seahawks schedule is not bad at all. It's that's the one thing to hold on to. So I think our division price is not quite, but it's going to be hugely dependent on that price against the Niners in 14-15 on a Thursday night. That'll be certainly for you and I would say the highest leverage game of the season, but I believe in you, Geno Smith, if you're watching, which I know you are. All right, don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel, and if you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to subscribe and rate us. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, we'll be back and happier tomorrow.